call this Board of Directors meeting to order. Being no public comment, move on to the approval of minutes. So I've got two people. Somebody's gonna have to make the motion, and the other one will.
I'll start.
will
So
second.
moved.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. Do I have a motion to approval of vouchers?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Mr. General Manager, will you go over monthly reports?
Yes, I will, and Dudley has already chided me about taking all of his
He makes
Oh.
this
Taking
stuff
all his
up.
time.
all these good things.
I told him I'd just start staying home.
Yeah, that's what I mean by chided. So I'm gonna ask Dudley, our Director of Accounting and Finance, to enlighten the board on the positive financial position that we find ourselves in the third month of the fiscal year.
Sure. Through September, what you have is the revenue and expense summary through September. For the month of September, the electric department had net income of $71,135. The water and sewer department had a net income of $76,386. If you look out here at our year-to-date numbers, the electric sales are up $236,000. Our power cost is under $266,000. Again, a lot of that is attributed to our VPP, virtual power plan, and the credits that we get back that we've signed up for from TVA. Our expenses are $214,000 over what we anticipated, but that's not bad. And so year-to-date, we're $291,000 ahead of the forecast. In the water and sewer department, the water sales are about $1,600 ahead. The sewer sales are about $15,000 behind, and you say, well, how can water be just a little bit ahead and the sewer behind? And that's because our industry is doing a little bit better than we anticipated, but those industry customers don't have sewer, the ones that are doing better. So it doesn't always work out a one-for-one like you would think.
They have
Sewer, they just don't use it in their processing.
Right. So, the operating expenses are, $6,000 less than we had anticipated so far. So we're just $6,000 behind the forecast, but we'll take that all day long. And unless you got specific questions, that's all I've got.
any questions? Do you hear a motion to approve monthly reports?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Project status reports, Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're tracking four projects, budgetary items in the electric department. We do not have any that we're tracking currently in the water and sewer department. Of the four that we're tracking in electric, our work order 1153, which is the aerial cable on Tillery Road. That project is now complete, on time and as expected. We're waiting on the final numbers for closing. The aerial cable in Westwood, on Westwood Drive, project is going well and should be easily completed by the end of next month. And work order 1210, which is on Edmonds Lane, the upgrade. Construction on this project is just getting started, and we have no reason to believe that it shouldn't be completed by the end of January. And on Martin Road, this project involves relocating the existing single-phase line that's currently in the back of the houses and through the woods, as they say, on the way to Grandma's house. And so we're going to bring that out to the road, and to bring that out to the road, it's first time line clearing for a lot of these lines. So there's going to be extensive right-of-way clearing involved, and we're now in the pre-construction right-of-way clearing process on this project. So that's the four that I have, and I'll be glad to go into any detail if someone has a question.
Any questions? Hearing none. You need a motion yet, or?
No, that's just informational. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we're ready for purchase orders, I can
Yes, sir, please.
suggest that the the board approve a purchase order of the transformers. If you'll look on your transformer quotation sheet, we go through a process in order to determine the best bid, because the process we go to, we look at line losses, we calibrate it out over the life of the transformer. We looked at all of these and we cherry picked instead of just going with one, and we only saved $554.50, but by cherry picking, it's still $554.50. And I recommend that the board approve this split for this transformer quotation and approve purchase order for these transformers in the amount of $89,800.80.
Do you hear a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Anybody got any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we move on to now work orders, work order
Got a
eight.
wire, got a wire.
I'm so sorry, Dudley. Thank you. We've got the wire quote, and I think that's the number I gave for approval of the work order. So the wire quote, this is cable. It has both messenger cable, which we use in our Flizzer system for communication, and it has 4-0 all aluminum cable. Also, we have three bidders rather, and this purchase order and wire quote we recommend that the board approve for the $89,800.80.
Do you hear a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries, and so that approves both the 6921.50 and the 89,800.
That's right, the purchase order and the
Yeah.
quote itself, that's
For
right.
the record. All right. Approval of work order, Mr. General Manager.
861S is a sewer work order, and this project is to upgrade the wastewater collection system main there at North Main Street and the railroad overpass. This section of our collection system has been a problem for a long time, and we have taken bites out of trying to correct it. What happens is the line gets surcharged when we have a big rain. And it used to evolve into a fountain at one time, and we continue to try to improve that. Part of the problem is the I&I, inflow and infiltration that gets into that line. But the crux of the problem, I believe it was a design flaw, because it doglegs back, which is really over a 90-degree bend, where it comes down, then essentially takes a left towards where the old burger house was. And that is where, because of the force of the water coming down, it backs up there, and when it backs up, that's when it comes out the manhole. So this, I believe, is going to be a permanent fix for that, and that is we're going to take that dogleg out and do a proper bend for that wastewater to make that turn, and that's going to cost, we think, a work order for $91,000 to do that, which has materials and contingency in it. And soon I'll be asked you to approve the awarding that to the contractor, which will be coming up after that. But for right now, for this, what I'm asking the board is approval for 861S, the work order for these improvements to the collection system on North Main Street.
Is any of that got to do with, aren't there like springs up underneath Clinton Floor and Cabinet over there?
There is, and we had,
I mean, nothing you can do about that.
well, we tried to block that out. The system has to breathe, so it has to come up somewhere too, but I mean, there's a lot of pressure right there, and it'll buckle the road
Yeah.
if it doesn't have a way to come out. And what we've tried to, and those are the bites that we took out of it, Steve. We we tried to improve the I&I coming out of there because it's coming in from a lot of different places. And and we have improved that, which is why we only see it on these torrential,
Yeah.
2 and 3 inches worth of rainfall. And the state overlooks that because it's coming up everywhere, on.
Yeah, when it happens there.
With all utilities, when you have 3 inches of rain in 3 hours, you're gonna have flooding, essentially, that's what's gonna happen. But I think we need to address that, we've needed to address that for quite some time. It's essentially rainwater, and it's mixed in with the wastewater, and I don't want it coming up in the road.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Now, any further
When
discussion?
Stevie owned the telephone company building, when she first bought it years ago, we used to get water in the basement all the
I
time.
know, it's.
But that, y'all fixed that
Yeah.
quite a while ago.
Again, it's bites. We took bites because my question is, what does it take to fix? It's like taking your car to the mechanic, and they're starting with this thing, and then they do that, and then they do that, and then they do that. This is essentially, we're changing the engine out. I'm tired of the bites. I want the permanent fix. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Moving on to award of improvements to wastewater collection system.
And then this goes right to the work order that we were just talking about. We're happy to see that Hearst Excavating LLC came in with a very competitive bid of $53,175, and we recommend that as the lowest and most responsible bid.
Hear a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. On to approval of Wolf Tree rate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Annually, we review our contract with Wolf Tree. We've had them and been partners with them for a long time. They were bought out by Davy. We had a relationship with Wolf and the owners for many, many years. We think we have a very competitive billing arrangement with them, and we'd like to recommend that the board give the general manager the authority to execute and approve the latest rate request made by Wolf.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
So this will allow them to get back up to closer to full staffing of the crews? We hope.
Yes, it's our desire to have a full staff, which we haven't had for quite some time.
Okay.
This will certainly, hopefully, slow down any additional erosion from those crews.
Well, I think with the economy the way it is, I'd say it's been, the full employment kind of impacts, I would say that some too, so.
Yes, sir.
Not that you want the economy to.
Right.
Any other discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Recommendation to city council, general manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Annually, we do a tax equivalent calculation that is checked by TVA. And Dudley and I have been at it for over 40 years. We've never made an error in our calculation, or we never made one that TVA caught anyway. And we went through that calculation this year. There's a lot of components that add up to that. But what you see in front of you represents the maximum tax equivalent that we are, by law, allowed to pay to each one of these taxing districts, both municipalities and the counties that we serve in. And they are right to the penny. And we recommend, therefore, that this board recommends to the city the approval of these tax equivalents for distribution.
Just take a motion.
It takes a motion.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Other business, general manager.
Other business, Mr. Chairman. given the state that we find ourselves in with this COVID-19, the staff and I feel it's appropriate and the right move that because we don't have a facility that will accommodate appropriately an annual Christmas lunch. So we are going to not have one this year, and we'll try to make it up next year. So that's the position on the Christmas lunch this year. Now, the electric and the water and sewer audits are completed. This is for fiscal year ending June 30th of this year, and we have them. They're clean as we expect them to be. And as soon as the auditors finish, which always comes next, is the pension audit. Then is the next date that they're available, and we hope that may be next month, that they'll be in. I'm going to have them into the board, and that way they'll go through the electric, water, wastewater, and pension audits for you. But I just want you to know that the electric, water, and sewer audits are in and clean, and they're still working on the pension audits, much like the same as last year. We don't expect any problem in that pension audit either. I was wondering if anyone saw a blink the other night in the lights, and if so, we had a Flizzr event, which
Several.
really went very well. I've got some facts on that. I wasn't going to bring it up unless you saw it, but
Was it yesterday?
yes, sir.
Yes,
About dinner time.
yes.
At 5:08, some saw a dip, some saw a flicker, but that's the Flizzr working. 5:08, a tree fell on Sulphur Springs, and it caused the Clinton breaker, which is 254, which gets a lot of us, to lock out. And that initially affected 978 customers. In 32 seconds, because we do safety checks with Flizzr, 32 seconds, we isolated, in other words, opened up and isolated where the outage was. And in 55 seconds, we had 232 of those customers restored, and in 1 minute and 9 seconds, we had 467 customers restored with Flizzr. The remaining 288, which is where we isolated to, again, we're now trying to get everything down to 300 or less on an event like this. We restored at 6:37, so about an hour and a half, and then we had everybody back on. But within a minute, we had 2/3 of everybody back on. So I just wanted to share that with you. I received a letter dated November the 3rd from the Tennessee Department of Health. And CUB received a water it's fluoride. It's a fluorination quality award. The word just got stuck in my mouth. But it is an award that we received. It says the award recognizes the communities that achieved excellence in the community fluoridation by maintaining a consistent level of fluoride in drinking water throughout 2019 for last year. Since we got that, since we received it, since it's an honor, I wanted to share it with you. And finally, at the October the 26th City Council meeting, and in the spirit, I think, of continuing the positive joint efforts made by the city and CUB to encourage local residential growth, a question was raised and was asked to be discussed by Mayor Burton as to whether or not it would be prudent for CUB to identify potential high-growth areas and proactively install utilities to make them site-ready. He thought, and he gave an example up Highway 61 towards the interstate on the right there. He sees that, and I think he's correct, as potential areas for growth. So his question is, which is a reasonable question, is why can't we do something? And when he talks about utilities, I'm thinking he's meaning water and sewer, because electric's already there. and we don't have
Yeah, that was
gas.
a curveball for me. I was thinking, didn't want to speak out of turn, but I was like, I'm pretty sure electricity's running.
Right, it is. Right.
It's so ignorant. I didn't want to be. You know.
I see streetlights up there on the road. I mean, that's a good sign.
It's just north of the streetlights. So the,
Sorry, Mayor.
it is what we need to think out of the box to continue to make sure that every stone is unturned as to how we can ready ourselves for residential growth, and are there additional things that we can be doing. Now, our chairman appropriately and correctly identified that the source of funds for these improvements would come directly from our current ratepayers in order to provide this. And unless grants are available, and for that you generally need a bird in hand, and it's generally not for residential unless there is an ongoing, a grandfathered problem of sewer to where it becomes a public health issue. Unless there are grants available, there's no utility that I know of, none, that provides for construction or improvements in anticipation of potential growth. And again, unless grants involve Cub's only source in revenue is from our rates and fees. And in addition, by law, we can't mix the funds. We can't say, well, we have millions of dollars with electric, let's do something in water. Each department has to be self-sustained. That's why we have audits for each department. So what we're dealing with is a limited amount of funds. We've got 30,000 customers in electric, so you get $1 each from them. That's 30,000 a month. It doesn't take much to get a lot of money there. We don't have that number. We don't even have 5,000 sewer customers, because sewer is always the impediment to growth. Water's easy. It flows uphill, it flows downhill, and if it leaks, you've got green grass. There's no health issues. Sewer is a different ballgame. The cost is prohibitive, and it's also repetitive, because that's so corrosive. You're in there working it all the time and you've got to push that wastewater uphill, or any grade and level. You got to push. Water pressure moves the water. You go uphill, downhill, easy. Wastewater, you got to push, and that takes lift stations to do that. So if it backs up or if it leaks, you've got a health issue, and the state can and often does step in and then fine you. So our rates are designed for operation and maintenance, not for speculative, proactive construction. The Miller Road pump station, for example, cost over $400,000. In 2017, we did upgrades to that in the amount of $300,000. So you're looking at $700,000 in the Miller Road pump station alone, which without that, we wouldn't have the ability to serve the I-75 industrial park. Without that, the new residential subdivision, they'd have a hard time with their sewer, because they're going to come into that station. And the church on the other side and the physical therapy folks all come in to that station. They all built to get to that station. We currently have 4,800 sewer customers, and the average bill is $31.07 a month for that. Back in 08 and fiscal year 2018, we did a cost of services study on how much money are we making per service in order to justify the billing rates that we have. Now, for water and sewer, we were in a deficit. In other words, our margin was $2.99 less than what we were charging. The reason we were staying afloat is because our buffer in cash. And that's why we came back and asked for a rate increase to get our margin on the black side of what our cost of services were. So we're not even making in sewer $1 a month margin. So with 4,800 customers at less than $1 a month, you can see with $700,000 in Miller Road alone, there is a lifetime before that's ever paid off. And that's assuming if you used 100% of your margin to do that, which we can't do because we've got everything else going on. We design rates to break even. Essentially, that's where we are. That's where we are with electric. I think it's 5 or 6 cents a month in electric is what our margin is after our cost of services were. So all of our rates are designed to break even. Our cash goes up and down. Our net income goes up and down, because of the things that we do with our virtual power plant, the things our credits that we're getting for our partners with TVA. Those make a positive difference. But we need grant money in order to extend our system in order to meet growth. Because it's why the city doesn't put in roads into or openings or whatever into a potential subdivision, because even though their property tax is what they're getting, for that property tax they provide services, and the city also works on a very tight margin of what their services that they provide for the property tax that they charge, which is why we always put that on whosever property is going to be improved by these services being provided. What they get is the ability to even have this. And they have to bring that to them, and we have provided through our policy an opportunity for them to get a portion of that return depending on whether or not their subdivision is successful. If an individual wants it, because now we're only one lot off of the 4-lane, and now an individual wants to have that, one day he'll be able to get water if we can get this grant and I can get a water line, because we don't have water and sewer on the other side of the bridge. It's not ours, so we have to buy ACWA for that, and we don't have sewer. We got to go through their system to do that, and it's their service area. But if somebody wants to build a house right off of that subdivision, they want to build it close to Miller Road to get to there, because you can't poke a straw into that force main. Because of the pressure of the force main, it'll blow right out into your commode, over time, and when it gets surcharged. So the way you have to do it, it has to come gravity to a station, and then we lift it up and push it out of that station. It's a lot of money. Sewer, you can poke a hole in a water line. We'll be glad to do that when we have one up there. But for sewer, we've got to do it in lift stations because we have this. And for that, there's a lot of money to do that. And 50 houses or 100 houses wouldn't pay for the lift station. What got Miller Road in there was I leveraged that Ishan with that when they built, and I got a grant for that. But not a grant for the $300,000 in upgrades that we had to do in 2017.
So I'll declare a little bit of a conflict here on this, but so how much acreage is on both sides of that road going up there? I mean, because you're not talking 50 houses, you're talking, let's say whether it's commercial or real estate, residential, whatever. It seems like that's probably the area to grow. I mean, there's a sewer line going through there. It's just not, you can't get onto it, right?
Right.
And so it's not that there's not a line going through there. It's just that when the line was put in place, it wasn't at the time probably, whether it's urban growth, whatever it was that developed, it wasn't capable of being able to be done at the financially, I assume.
No, well, the thing is, Steve, there's capacity in it. Of course, that's what takes all of the industrial park, which is what it was designed to accommodate.
Right.
But there's capacity, but how you get into it is the problem.
That's what I meant, yeah. So, how does, now that the conversation's open, what does the city, where's the city, limits run up through there? Is it the road
It's a finger, they annexed a finger.
inside the Tennessee, the state right of way, I guess?
Well, I don't know if they're a lot off of that, but it may be just a state right of way. You've got Indian Hills up there.
Sure.
Indian Hills, they want it to come to the city
Right.
and be annexed because they want sewer. And then we're saying, Cub's saying, we can't provide them sewer without getting some kind of a grant to do that. We can't borrow ratepayers' money to improve that subdivision with sewer when the return on that we'll never see. Now, if they're accessed a fee, if it costs $900,000 to put sewer in there, and then we divide that out, by however many lots and put a lien on the house that it'll be paid back, then I think we could
Yeah.
do something.
So two questions. One is, I'd be curious just to see where the city boundaries are up there. I'm just kind of curious now.
I think it's just down the highway.
Yeah, is it down the right of way?
That's my belief.
That's what I remember. It's
That's
just
what I
the
wasn't sure.
highway.
And
And
it's-
then, if I remember correctly, when you got to the end, those businesses were given the option to be part of the city or not.
Probably so.
I think Golden Girls did, and everyone that did up there because we provided them water through our purchases from ACWA. And again, we're gonna have water up there one day. And I'm very hopeful this grant will come through for us, and that'll give us some leverage with water. But sewer is always
Well,
gonna be.
And that was my point. I think in the big picture scheme, and I get it with only 5,000 customers below, the way to do it is you're going to have to get a grant.
Gotta get a grant.
So, I mean, so maybe what needs to happen is maybe the city, Cub and Anderson County, because Anderson County benefits if there's growth up there too. Maybe the three parties need to kind of,
You get a CDBG grant, and it's generally 50%. Then you'd have to say, well, where does the other 50% come from?
well, what needs to happen is in the next, either next 45 or 60 days or next 4 years, not sure. You need to be, because the money's gonna stop if things
Right.
don't change in 45 days, so
Right.
it'll be another 10 years, but somebody's there's probably some money left over around somewhere, just, but otherwise we ain't gonna be getting any in this state for a while probably, so. But, yeah, it makes sense.
Steve, what's your
The
thoughts?
line you're referring to that runs
Yeah,
along the highway,
I
the
was
sewer
gonna
line,
talk to you
that's
on the
under
side.
pressure.
Oh, I know.
So
I don't think city
that's-
council
keep
opens
that.
their eyes
That's
far
right.
enough on what can be done to draw. I made a proposal to Scott a couple of years ago. If there's a piece of property up there that's farmland and zoned that way, low tax base, somebody buys it for a subdivision. Don't change the tax base to residential. Leave it at undeveloped property until they actually build a house on the lot. Give the developer a little bit of a break in what he has to pay for all those lots he's just made residential now. And then convert it as houses are built to residential rate, to be paid by whoever buys the house. But, incentivize the builder a little bit by reducing some of his cost.
What do you think about this in regards to the question about the sewer? What are your thoughts on that issue?
We went around and around with Hollingsworth on the sewer deal, so I don't know whether we'd get into the same situation in Indian Hills or not.
There's no feasible way that I see that we can move forward with putting facilities in anticipation of growth.
It's too speculative.
Well, not only that, you would have
Yeah, I'd
the
argue with that.
public would go absolutely bonkers on that because it's not even like tax money, do you see? Because the city has the vision of that growth. The utility is only charged with providing the service, a quality service, which in itself is an enhancement to growth. Low rates, quality service, that's our contribution. But we don't have the mandate, the way I see it, that through ratepayers' money to incentivize residential growth. We don't want to be an impediment to residential growth by having unrealistic requirements or fees or anything like that. That's why you have to justify, what you charge. But I don't know of a utility anywhere that spends one nickel of ratepayers' money towards enhancing residential property. Now, industrial property is different because the return on that can be significant. So you can do a cost benefit for that. But for a residential home, it's a break-even process. We show you that through the cost of services study, what it is. We're providing the service and we're getting enough to maintain that service. You see?
Right.
That's pretty much where we are on that. And with industrial, we can always leverage that with grants. And the only way you're going to get a grant on residential is not for growth, it is for public health. And that's always, you do
Usually
water,
low-income areas too.
low income, yeah.
It's not
They'll do water out of the county
$250,000.
because the well water's not good. We got grants in South Clinton because Volkswagens were sinking in the front lawn, essentially, and that's about what it took.
That was too.
That's about what it took. So I don't ever see the state saying, well, this is a great place for a nice subdivision. You need a lift station here, and that'll cost $200,000, so we're going to match $100,000. I mean, it's possible. I don't see it.
Go ahead.
How much of that land's commercial though up through there, as opposed to residential?
Well, you've got that beautiful lot as you go up on the left there. I mean, they leveled it up. It's screened out. I mean, it's crying for a.
And you got the farm that splits
Right.
across. So I can never
Where it goes down to Sinking Springs, there's a reason they call it Sinking Springs. 'Cause it's sinking.
Yep.
You see, it's down there. So anything there has to get pushed up. Yeah.
Yep.
Sewer is the impediment to growth.
What are they doing
always.
in Hardin Valley? And I know it may be a generalization, but all that growth in Hardin Valley, how is the utilities handling that from a sewer standpoint?
Well,
If we know, I mean, it may be.
well, that's Lenore City there. They won't even do. My understanding, they stopped doing this low pressure. They won't even take low pressure. You got to get to gravity with them, So what the growth in Pellissippi, Hardin Valley, is Pellissippi. It's the proximity to Knoxville and the Farragut, That's the draw for Hardin Valley, is the location for where it is, not the utility, because they charge $3,300 on the front end before you do anything, just for water and
But
sewer.
do we know, for example, over the last 10, 15 years, did they ever put in a substation and anticipating, oh, look at this farmland over here, it's going to definitely develop. Let's go ahead and put in a substation here.
Now, what drives them is the same thing drives us, and that's demand. That's why when the conductor that we just purchased, all of that is because the line is.
I misspoke, substation, I mean like Miller Road.
pumping station.
Thank you, pumping station.
No, it's all demand driven. They do that when they have, just like we did the $300,000 worth of upgrades. We did that because
We had to.
we had to. So everything is demand driven. We won't put a substation in unless the demand is there for it. And what does that is, that's the Bird in Hand, that's the I-75 industrial park. All of the substations that we put in recently have, well, not, I mean, all of them in the 40 years I've been here have all been demand driven. We won't put a substation in an industrial park unless we're gonna have the growth in the industrial park to justify that. The first thing we did is we ran a circuit out of Clinton sub to serve the first part of that I-75 industrial park, to get power up there. We had to have an ISIN before we moved onto now we're gonna put a 30 megawatt substation in there.
The answer is a grant.
Grant.
That's all it can be. It's just a matter of politics.
And again, the city rightfully and correctly is, what can we do to enhance and incentivize? And Steve Combs rightfully and correctly identified the city's role in what can you do. Waive a building permit, would be something, if you wanted to do that. Give a moratorium for a year on building permits, and I'm telling you, that's enough to, if it's somebody's tipping, that's enough to tip them over the line. We got on our July the 1st, when we ended this tap fee deal, get in by the tap, they got in before that thing was over, do you see? So, I mean, they're looking to, it's all about lower the cost to give me a better margin, and I'm gonna move. So, working together, the utility has been creative in what we've provided out there for residential development, and we have reaped the benefits from the agonizing time that we had to arrive where we are. And we should always be willing to address additional issues and concerns, because oftentimes they come from a place where they don't see the bigger picture or the whole picture. And we should be able to articulate the reasons why we do anything, instead of just saying, well, we've always done that, or don't tell me no one else is doing it, therefore that's a good reason, because it's not.
Right.
There should be a good reason.
I'm satisfied.
I would almost tell the city to be careful what you wish for.
Well, yeah, because you're gonna have to build a new fire station, you're gonna have to
Well,
add police, you're gonna have to add.
The 4-lane going east in the evening, you can't get on it for a while. And if you built big subdivisions up there and added hundreds of homes and a lot more traffic, you're gonna have a mess up there if you're not careful.
The problem is the last 4 kids at the school to require you to build a new school. You say,
Yeah, I've thought about, growth is not always necessarily desired. The right type of growth, targeted growth,
I think I said.
sustainable growth.
I said in this forum when we were going through all of our things to try to help promote growth, if I wanted to live in West Knoxville, I'd move to West Knoxville.
Right.
I like the lack of people in this area.
Yeah.
when
That's fair.
we moved here, I think there were 2 stoplights.
Greg and I were talking at lunch today. We remember this being Moore Street out through here, just a little 2-lane.
I lived on
Clinton
Fowler
Concrete
Street
was across the
and took a 5-iron and bounced a ball off of Moore Street, yeah.
It's grown a lot in our time here, no joke.
I haven't been able to keep my threat to my wife, but I once told her, if they get more 2 red lights, we're moving. It's got too many people.
We're tired of lights, that's the truth.
We
But at
had-
least we have smart lights.
We sold
Mo-
our hybrid bucket truck we put on Gov Deals, which we got 12.5 for it, which we're pretty pleased with. Our linemen didn't like it. And a little town out west Tennessee bought it. And Jonathan looked them up, and the city is 2.5 square miles, the whole city. And they bought this bucket truck. And he said, "You gonna use it to fix your street lights?" They go, "Yeah." I said, "How many you got?" 2.
Anything else, Mr. Chairman?
No, sir.
Steve, anything?
Nope.
Anything else? Call this meeting adjourned. Look.